G'day. I'm going to walk you through the process of creating a book in Wikidata. Now, the book model that Wikidata uses actually presumes two separate items. One item for the work, which is the thing the author wrote, and a second item for the edition or translation. And when you think about it, this makes sense because when you cite a book as a reference in Wikipedia, you're actually citing the particular edition. The page numbering might be different in different editions. It might be the hardback versus the paperback. There are lots of different versions of a book, but the thing the author wrote is called the work itself. So we're going to make both of these things. Now, in Wikidata, this is often not done properly, but we're going to do it the right way. The book we're going to be working on is this one here, Banks Peninsula Reserves by Andy Dennis. It's published by the Department of Land and Survey, New Zealand, in 1986, though you wouldn't know it from looking at the book, which doesn't have a date in it. It does have an old-style ISBN, and it was published in Christchurch, New Zealand. So that's the critical information that we need. Now, what I tend to do is just look up this book in a few different sources online to see if there's an online version of it anywhere. Let's try and Google Books. Oh, yeah, there it is. Nothing we can read. I don't know about Mount Cook National Park. It's definitely not 6th edition, so Google's got that wrong. But at least it exists. And it's also worth looking it up in WorldCat, which is sort of a global library catalogue. Let's have a look for it here. Oh, yep, there it is as well. Now, this is useful because WorldCat has a unique identifier in OCLC, which is the number that refers to this particular edition that we're looking at here, which is great. So we found it in a couple of places. I also had a look in the Internet Archive, the Open Library, the Huddy Trust. No other versions of it actually online that I can find. So now we go to Wikidata, and we use those as the basis. I'm going to create a new item, and what we're actually making is the work itself. So let's call it Banks Peninsula Reserves, nothing else. And it's the Andy Dennis guidebook to the reserves of Banks Peninsula. Try and spell it right. You'll discover in these videos that I cannot talk and type at the same time. Okay, so what is it exactly? It's an instance of a written work in this sense, It's not an instance of a book, which is actually a different thing that's no longer accepted as a type of work. But you could have, it could be an instance of a biography, a poetry collection, a literary work, and so forth. But what it is not an instance of an additional translation. Language, work and name is English, obviously. It's going to have a title. Which is also in English. Other things that you can put is the author, in this case. Let's see if Andy Dennis exists in Wikidata, and he does. If not, you'd have to go over and create him. And we can also put form of creative work. And that can be a novel, a play, a poem, an opera is a creative work. A guidebook in this case is what it is. Okay. As you do these, you gradually discover what all the different options are. Now, this is a guidebook currently is in a form of a book form. Well, I beg to differ. Let's go fix that. It's an interest of a literary genre. I guess. Let's fix that. Okay, so I'm going to delete that. And we're going to say genre. and make guidebook that instead. Okay. Okay, that works. So a genre could be historical non-fiction is the one that I use, for example. It's the type of book as opposed to the form of the book, which might be a novel or a poem. Okay. Again, you figure some of these things out as you go. Country of origin, New Zealand. And another thing that you can usefully put is you can put main subject in this point. And in this case, it's Banks Peninsula. Right. Now, if we knew the Open Library ID or something, we could put this in here. One other thing that's important is the copyright status, which is independent of any particular edition or translation. And it's currently still in copyright. Copyrighted. There we go. Okay. Now later on we're going to come back and put has additional translation in there, but there's nothing more we can do at this point. So let's make another new item, and what I'm going to just do is copy this bit of text here because I'm going to need it in a second. Okay, we're creating another new item, which is also, you would think, going to be called Banks Peninsula Reserves, but we can say first edition. It's important to distinguish it in some way from the work itself. Now you might think, oh, this is a bit of a faff going through. This is only one edition of this published. There's probably not going to be another. In fact, there might well be. Andy Dennis died a few years back, but this book is fairly comprehensive, and it's not inconceivable that someone's going to create a revised edition with a second author. Okay. All right, so what this is an instance of is an edition or version or translation. Okay, and we go through again. This again edition is in English. We put the title in. Some of these things can be copied over from, the previous Wikidata item you've created if you know how to do that, and that can speed things up a little bit. Okay, so this is what's different. Edition number 1, and now let's link it to the previous one, or translation of. Okay, so we go back to our previous item, copy the QID. This is a useful button, by the way, to install in your preferences, and paste that in there. Okay, so it's an additional translation of that. It's flagged because it has to have the inverse thing as well. So we go back and we do the reverse. We copy this and we go back to the work and we say has edition. Right. So now those two are linked together in a kind of reciprocal version. Now I've done a book like The Luminaries and created 13 different editions of them, each in a different language, which was quite a bit of library work, but this one is much simpler. Okay. Now the publication date for this is 1986. Only a worker edition has a publication date. We can put the author in again. This is worth putting because, again, this is the thing that will get cited. The edition is the thing you use in a reference, not the work. This was published in Christchurch. Okay. Number of pages is 79. I'm just getting that off the National Library catalogue number. I didn't go and count them myself. Publisher. Now, again, this can be a problem. Department of Lands and Survey. There it is, former New Zealand Government Department. If this didn't exist, you'd have to go and make that publisher as well. If the printer is different from the publisher, you can put this in here, and you'd have to go and make that too. You can also put in the editor, the translator, the full work available at a URL, if it's not, but it's actually not. There's no place that it is available. Main subject can go in here, but we've done that already. If the author was not in Wikidata, you can use the author name string property and just put their name in as text. It's not great, but it will do. If the title has a subtitle, there's a separate property for that as well. And what we're also going to do is see, are there any identifiers? So let's put in the ISBN 10. We've got the old version of the ISBN here, which has only 10 digits. If you have the later one, that's great. Okay. Oh, yeah, it's got to match the 9 digits in 3 groups. Okay, let's see if we can get this right. So it's got a 0477-06143, and this last digit is called the checksum. That's a property of all these others summed together. Great. Okay, so ISBNs do come in this kind of very standardized format. Right. Now, what we can do is we can put the Google Book ID, Google Books ID in there. To find that, we go back to the Google Books we looked up there. And if you actually look up here in the URL, you see the ID equals this weird string of characters. Now, I don't know if this is a tremendously useful thing to put in, but we can put it in anyway. Okay, it's good. And we can also put in its OCLC number. Okay, so for that we go back to WorldCat and we use this OCLC unique identifier here and put that in 2. And any other Library of Congress numbers or anything else you can find that's unique as a unique identifier for this edition would be great. If we were doing this for Wikisource, we'd try and find the document file. It might have a Commons category if it's been uploaded into Wikimedia Commons. The URL of the Wikisource index page can go in here as well. But this will be enough, I think. So the key thing is we have the title, the author, the publisher, the place of publication are the main pieces of information we want. Now, I'll show you how to cite this in Wikipedia. So here's an article that I'm in the middle of writing. There's a fact in this Andy Dennis book that the reserve is situated at something called Tyson's Knob. That's not found in any other publication that I've come across so far. So I thought this was a useful reason to put this book into Wikidata. To put a citation using a Wikidata item in here, we've got a few ways of doing it. We can automatically just paste in the Wikidata like that. That's okay. We can also use the Cite Q template, which is something I increasingly do. So to do that, we just open up the basic reference field here and pick a template, and this is one I've bookmarked. All Cite Q needs is the Wikidata item. And that's what it puts in. You notice how this is better than just getting it to look up the Wikidata. It has a year rather than a particular date. It notes down the edition, and it gives the ISBN, the OCLC, and a link back to the Wikidata item. So Cite Q is actually quite a powerful tool for citation, but you do need to have a particular edition of the book entered in Wikidata for that to work. And there we go. Let me publish this now. Okay, so we've created the Andy Dennis work, the first edition of that work, and now we've cited it in a Wikidata, as a Wikidata item in a Wikipedia article. Hope that was useful. I'll try and do more of these. Thanks.